The summer of 2026 wrote two names into football history in golden letters. One is Barcelona's 19-year-old player Lamine Yamal. The other is Real Madrid's 21-year-old Turkish star Arda Güler. Both made their mark on the world football agenda in the same league, on the same World Cup stage as representatives of the same generation. And the football world is now asking a single question: will these two names shape the football of the next decade together? Today we put this to the table with data, stage moments, and real analysis. First, we need to understand why these two players are so captivating. Because they are not just talented young players. Both play at football's biggest clubs, under the highest pressure on the biggest stages, and instead of yielding to that pressure, both turn it into fuel. You already know Lamine Yamal's story. He came out of La Masia, wore the Barcelona shirt at 15, scored the youngest goal in European Championship history at Euro 2024 at 16, and lifted the World Cup trophy at 19. 41 goals and 38 assists in 138 Barcelona matches. La Liga Player of the Season, 2026 Ballon d'Or favourite. Arda Güler's story comes from a different path. And perhaps that is exactly what makes it more captivating. He came out of Fenerbahce's academy, wore the Super League shirt at 16, transferred to Real Madrid for approximately €20 million at 18, and earned the title of the youngest Galactico of the modern era. In the 2025-26 season, he produced 6 goals and 12 assists in 51 appearances across all competitions. He won the Champions League Breakthrough Player of the Year award. And at the 2026 World Cup, he became the brightest name in a tournament Turkey were participating in for the first time in 24 years. To understand Yamal, we first need to look at the story behind the numbers. 16 goals and 11 assists in 28 La Liga matches in 2025-26. The assist leadership and the La Liga Player of the Season award, these are individually undeniable achievements. But what truly makes Yamal different is how he achieved them. 37 of his 41 goals were scored with his left foot. The classic inverted winger profile of starting on the right and cutting inside to shoot, the exact same thing Messi did at Barcelona. His 911 touches in the opponent's penalty area show that he is not just a running winger, but a creative playmaker. At the 2026 World Cup, however, the picture is a little more complicated. 1 goal, 0 assists in 7 matches. He fell slightly short of his Euro 2024 standards on an individual level. But Spain conceded only 1 goal throughout the tournament and won the championship. The fact that every time Yamal took to the pitch, he drew at least 2 of the opponent's defensive players toward him is a contribution that does not show up in the statistics, but was critical for the team. And according to Give Me Sport's latest Ballon d'Or power rankings, Yamal leads this race. If he wins, it will be the first time in football history that a player under the age of 21 has won the Ballon d'Or. Now let us turn to Arda Güler. And to tell this story, one thing needs to be made clear first. Güler's journey at Real Madrid passed through a far more difficult road than Yamal's. When he arrived in Madrid in 2023, he suffered a serious knee injury in his very first season and entered a long recovery process. During the Ancelotti era, the players within the squad were not giving him enough minutes. Mbappe, Bellingham, Vinicius, Rodrigo, Real Madrid's attacking line was already the deepest squad in the world. Guler had to hold on within that crowd, but the 2025-26 season changed everything. New manager Jose Mourinho gave Guler a more systematic role. And the result? 6 goals and 12 assists in 51 matches. An average FOTMOB rating of 7.43. The Champions League Breakthrough Player award. And perhaps most importantly, what Thierry Henry said after watching Guler: he is no longer just a player with potential. He defines the game. When a young player steps up to this level, you no longer talk about potential. You talk about achievement. The match reports published on Real Madrid's official website summarized Guler's World Cup group stage match against the USA as follows. He scored the opening goal, converted the remaining 2 into assists, and was named the best player of the match. Turkey won that match 3-2. And that was the clearest demonstration of what a great player Guler is. The 2026 World Cup wrote very different stories for the two players, and this difference offers a critical window for understanding this stage of their careers. Yamal won the final alongside the champions, but in terms of individual brilliance, he fell slightly short of expectations. 1 goal, 0 assists in 7 matches. The magic of Euro 2024 did not fully repeat itself at the 2026 World Cup. Spain's system rewards collective unity rather than individual stars, and this suppressed Yamal's individual statistics. But the result did not change. Champion Yamal. Guler lived the exact opposite story. Turkey finished the tournament at the group stage. They lost their opening match 0-2 to Australia. Guler's post-match motivational speech that went viral stayed on the agenda for days. "We are much better." But those words were not enough to change the outcome. However, in the final group match against the USA, Guler delivered a great performance. 1 goal, 2 assists, best player of the match. Turkey won 3-2. And with that performance, Guler left the tournament not with a small consolation prize, but with a genuine stars stamp. FIFA had dedicated a special section to Guler in their list of young players to watch for World Cup 2026. And as the tournament ended, how accurate that analysis was became clear. And of course, this is the question everyone wants to ask: Yamal or Guler? There is no single correct answer to this question, but it is possible to look at the different dimensions of the comparison. In terms of individual productivity, Yamal is clearly ahead right now. 41 goals and 38 assists in 138 matches, La Liga Player of the Season and a World Cup title. These are unquestionably above Guler's current numbers. But when looked at from a development perspective, the picture becomes more interesting. Guler has to hold on in one of the world's most competitive squads like Real Madrid, work with a demanding manager like Mourinho, and deliver performances in a national team like Turkey that cannot support his individual quality with collective strength. Under these conditions, 6 goals and 12 assists in 51 matches along with a Champions League award, genuinely impressive. Looking at their playing styles, there are also interesting differences. Yamal brings his left foot's power and creativity to the fore with his inverted winger profile. Guler stands out more with his playmaking quality. It is notable that he is a balanced, versatile player in terms of shooting, passing and dribbling alike. Guler's goal from the halfway line is etched into the memories of Turkish supporters at the Bernabeu. Moments like these cannot be told with statistics. Both players have real risks ahead, and it would be wrong to ignore them. The biggest risk for Yamal is injury. Toward the end of the 2025-26 season, he suffered a grade 2 tear in his left hamstring during the match against Celta Vigo. If these injuries recur, his career could be seriously affected. For Guler, the biggest risk is the minutes he receives and Real Madrid's system. The Mourinho era at Real Madrid gave Guler more playing opportunities, but Mourinho's own future is also uncertain. With a new manager, Guler could once again find himself below the squad hierarchy. The limits of Turkey's national team's strength in European and world leagues also restrict the maximum Guler can show in international football. The common risk for both is the pressure environment created by the social media age. Every match goes viral instantly. Every mistake is amplified instantly. The players of this generation are growing up under a more intense level of public scrutiny than any player in history has ever experienced. And managing this pressure is just as critical a skill as scoring goals on the pitch. So, what do the coming years hold? For Yamal, the road looks clear. A Ballon d'Or candidate in 2026. Hansi Flick's system at Barcelona is giving him increasingly greater responsibility. The Karim Adeyemi transfer may relieve some of the burden on Yamal. And if he can stay free from injury, reaching his true peak at 22-23 is only a matter of time. For Guler, the road is a little more demanding. His relationship with the next manager at Real Madrid will determine the next 2 years of his career. Turkey have a 2030 World Cup target, and Guler will go to that tournament at 25. This is perhaps the most critical moment of his career, both individually and in terms of the national team. But do not forget, Guler is still only 21, and if he is already producing 6 goals and 12 assists in 51 matches, in 51 appearances, and reaching the Champions League at this age, it is not difficult to imagine how exciting the decade ahead could be. In conclusion, we can say this: Lamine Yamal and Arda Güler are the two brightest footballers of football's new generation. One wrote his name into the history of the 2026 World Cup with a championship, the other with character and individual brilliance. Both are still at the beginning of their stories. Both have a long and uncertain road ahead of them. And the most important lesson football history has taught us is this: great players are defined not when they reach the top, but by how they deal with adversity. The decade ahead for Yamal and Guler will shape this generation's football, and if what we have seen so far is any indication, that shaping will be truly incredible. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.